In this video, we're going to be talking about why the Michael Saylor strategy stock is correcting to the downside, while the stock market continues to move up and Bitcoin continues to crash, and why Metaplanet may be the opportunity of a lifetime to actually buy, because what the alternative is going to be to MicroStrategy may be Metaplanet. And if indeed they are going to be trading around the same MNAV as they did in the previous bull run, then what you could be looking at this stock doing a 30 to 40x here in the next 2 to 3 years moving forward. This is a crazy opportunity. Nobody's talking about this. So in this video, we're going to be talking about that. But first, let's talk here about this chart. What you guys can see that every single Bitcoin bear market, every single time, the Bitcoin bear market had about an 80% correction to the downside. So you can see in 2011, it was 93%, 2015, 96%, 2018, 94%, and 2022, it was 77%. Again, I made this chart here myself, but what you guys can see that there's a very clear uptrend. So these Bitcoin bear markets, over time, the percentage correction get less and less, but currently we're only down here about 50%, what you guys can see right over here as well here on the chart. I talked about it here in the last video, but I think a lot of people don't really realize the significance of this, especially here talking about the perpetual stock right over here that Michael Saylor has. Now, basically what you guys can see is that every single time we had a correction, again, it's around 80%, but over time they get lesser and lesser. And you guys can kind of see a clear uptrend right over here. Now, if I draw this trend line over here, this green trend line like this, from the 2018 and then the 2022 and then the current Bitcoin price, then what you are potentially looking at is the Bitcoin price crashing all the way here to about 70%. Now, if that is going to be the case, we're going to be trading at $37,000 US. Now, the fact that people are already stressed out about this whole Michael Saylor situation, imagine if we actually do crash to about $37,000 US. But if we actually take away the whole FTX crash, so what I actually did is I drew this trend line right over here from the FTX crash, but if we just don't take into account the FTX crash, but just the exact bottom that happened here around June of 2022, then you could still be looking at around a 60% correction to the downside. Now, if that is going to be the case, you're looking still at about a about $50,000 US. Now, again, people are completely stressing right now about Michael Saylor potentially having to sell a bunch of Bitcoin. People are talking about the negative effect it's going to have on the Bitcoin price. But again, we could still very likely move a little bit lower. And that is going to cause a lot of stress. Now, the thing is, something that literally nobody is talking about, that is the second biggest Bitcoin treasury company. Why is nobody talking about this? Because think about this, guys. This is the alternative to MicroStrategy. Now, Metaplanet only has convertible notes. They do not have the type of dividend stock that Michael Saylor had. Now, Michael Saylor created this dividend stock to buy more Bitcoin, but the reason why people are worried about this is because they say that the dividend is too high, and the only way he can actually pay for those dividends is by selling Bitcoin. Now, Metaplanet structure works a little bit different. Now, technically, they may have to sell some Bitcoin if these senior notes eventually roll over and the stock price is not going to be above where most people want it to be. But the interesting thing about this is that while they are correcting to the downside, they are currently here trading below MNAV, which means buying Metaplanet stock theoretically is better than buying Bitcoin here on the spot market. Now, what is also very interesting that during the bull run, they were trading at the exact top here around very close to 8x MNAV, but quite close between 8 to 7x here on MNAV. Now, if you don't know what it exactly means, we're not going to be going into actually everything. But if the Bitcoin price is going to indeed get here, and this is where the opportunity is, and stay with me because this is going to be insane. If the Bitcoin price is indeed going to get over here at 60% to the downside, you're probably going to see that the Metaplanet stock is as well going to be trading here around 120, 150 yen. Now, if the stock is going to be trading here, and this is where the stock is eventually going to be bottoming out, if you're going to be taking over the previous all-time high from, let's say, this exact bottom, you're already looking here at about a 13x gain, which means if you put in about 100K here in this stock, you're looking at 1.3 million return. Now, that is just here breaking the all-time high. Now, if we go to the MicroStrategy stock, you can see that in the previous all-time high, it took out this previous all-time high easily, absolutely easily. Now, the other thing that MicroStrategy stock did, it went up about 300% from that previous all-time high. But if you take it from the exact bottom to the exact top, it did almost a 40x. Now, this is again the MicroStrategy stock. So if we go and Metaplanet, and let's say the same thing is going to happen to Metaplanet, let's say it's going to way overtake here this all-time high, you're looking at something like a 40x gain. Again, very similar to what MicroStrategy stock did as well. And again, they only have convertible debt. So last time the actual ratio was absolutely insane, about a 7x. Now, maybe if this is going to be a little bit less, even on the conservative side, you could be looking at a 2x MNAV, maybe at the top a 3x MNAV, and that's going to amplify any Bitcoin gains that you're going to be having. Plus, because you're actually buying minus MNAV, you're looking at like making a 4 times bigger return than Bitcoin would do during this bull run. Now, hypothetically, again, if this Bitcoin bull run is going to be from 50x, 50,000 US dollar, let's say to 200,000 US dollar, you're looking at about a 4 times 4, a 16x at minimum at that point in time. You're looking at like 1,600% gain, which is absolutely insane to think about. And again, the Michael Saylor strategy stock, or MicroStrategy, whatever you want to call the damn stock, you guys can see the exact same thing. It did a 40x. And even on the conservative side, if Metaplanet does a 20x, that would way outperform Bitcoin. Now, the whole goal about this is by exactly buying at the bottom, because if you bought somewhere at the bottom and sold somewhere at the top, you're really looking at a much lesser gain, only about 15x. So not 40x, but about 15x. So timing this exact bottom is going to be crucial. Now, we've already talked exactly about when this bottom is potentially going to take place. We have already talked here about the actual circle patterns. If I can actually find my circle pattern. Here we go. We really talked here about the cycle bottom probably being around October of this year. So buying the Metaplanet stock instead of the strategy stock could be potentially the play moving forward to make this insane gains. Now, look, I'm not a financial advisor. As you guys can see with MicroStrategy and the dividend stock as well, these things can fall apart. They are very risky, and I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own research. But it is something very interesting that's basically opening up right now that really nobody is talking about. And again, if the Bitcoin price indeed is going to get one more correction to the downside, it's going to surprise a lot of people, especially the stockholders of Metaplanet. A lot of retail investors bought here at the top, a lot of Japanese people who probably don't really understand this 4-year Bitcoin cycle. So you're probably going to be looking at a very heavy negative MNAV, and that is going to be a golden buy opportunity here to potentially buy the stock and make this insane return. Now, a second chart that a lot of people are really not talking about is the M2 money supply. Now, we know that the national debt continues to move further to the upside. As you guys can see, currently sitting here at around 40 trillion, but continuing to increase further to the upside. A lot of this money is eventually flowing into the M2 money supply and eventually flowing back into the economy. We've historically seen that if the M2 money supply goes up, there's sometimes a little bit of a delay, like right over here where the Bitcoin price went sideways. The M2 money supply shot here to the upside, but eventually you can see that Bitcoin eventually catched up. But you can generally see that Bitcoin and the M2 money supply are very heavily correlated. And we also see that the M2 money supply went here to the downside, and that perfectly correlates here with the Bitcoin price as well, having here this correction to the downside. But currently, the M2 money supply is just shooting up, and Bitcoin is really staying behind. Now, I believe that eventually Bitcoin will catch up with this M2 money supply, and eventually the next cycle is probably going to be very interesting. But that is something to watch. While everybody is worried and everybody is screaming, the actual global liquidity is doing very, very strong. And that's why something like this could potentially very quickly reverse much sooner than you expect. And that is one of the reasons why I'm not really selling Bitcoin. I'm not really actively trying to short the market actively. I'm mainly focused on finding out when is that next bottom going to be. And around October here of this year, if I can get here this buy on Metaplanet, then we could potentially looking at this stock already outperforming Bitcoin quite strongly in a way that is going to surprise a lot of people. And again, now that everybody is worried about MicroStrategy, this could become the Bitcoin treasury company of choice, meaning that this company may trade here above MNAV and the opportunity may be right over here. But we're going to be waiting for one more correction to the downside. I'm going to be buying this stock. I'll probably throw in about 100K. And let's see if this stock can do like a 30x. And I can make like $3 million from that here over the next few years moving forward. So let's see if that's going to play out. But anyway, that is here the video here on the Daily Coin. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe on the channel. I've been making Bitcoin videos for about 7 years now on my other channel called Team Underground. This is my new channel I just made. Yeah, if you're new here, then subscribe. And I hope to see you guys here in my next video. Bye bye.